every school carries shadows, but not every shadow belongs to the building. At Sato Middle School, the east building stands a little apart, as if the architect set it down and the ground shifted after. The corridor there is long and straight and strangely quiet, lined with windows that rattle when the wind changes its mind. Students cut across the courtyard to avoid it. Teachers keep their keys ready when they pass, and at the very end sits a bathroom door with a padlock that seems permanent until the day you really look. Then you notice the way it hangs wrong, like a mouth trying to say something with its lips sealed. The bathroom is not a secret. It is an agreement. The school keeps it locked. The students keep their distance. The rumor keeps breathing. Most rumors fade when people grow up, but this one learned how to survive. It learned how to keep time. Every few years, someone knocks 3 times on the third stall's door. Every few years, someone hears an answer. After that, there are fevers, nightmares, sudden transfers, and stretches of silence in attendance records that line up with sick notes that never explain anything at all. It is not a story the school writes down. It is a story the school wears. Mai knows this because she notices what others try not to see. She notices which lights flicker only at dusk. She notices which janitor turns his head when he mops near the east wing, as if refusing to make eye contact with the door. She notices the way the lock's shackle keeps a faint polish where hands have brushed it many times. Not enough to shine, just enough to prove that people keep almost opening it. Mai is not a believer and not a skeptic. She is a listener with a good memory. Kenji sits across from her in homeroom, a nervous comedian who mistakes volume for courage. He throws jokes at anything that scares him and hopes one will stick. Arun sits beside Mai, calm and steady, the kind of friend who reads the map instead of the sign and weighs doors with the heel of his hand before anyone else notices why. The 3 of them share lunches, test answers, and the quiet that falls whenever the wind slides down the east corridor like a long, cold breath. Nina arrives in the middle of the term with a ribbon the color of the school crest and a transfer slip that says almost nothing. She is not shy and not social. She is precise. She returns chalk to the tray without getting dust on her sleeve. She writes her name in small, balanced letters and closes her notebook as if she is keeping a promise inside. When teachers ask where she came from, she says the name of a district nobody visits on purpose. When classmates try to include her, she nods politely and drifts away like a boat the tide refuses to hold. For days, she does not mention the East Building. She does not mention anything she doesn't have to. But one lunch period, without any warning at all, she turns to Mai, Kenji, and Arun and asks, "Is it true about the bathroom?" Kenji laughs because he always laughs when he is startled. "Which part?" he says. "The lock? The third stall? The knock that knocks back?" "All of it," Nina says, not smiling. To Mai, her eyes look not curious but deliberate, as if she's already placed the bathroom on a map and is now measuring the distance from where they sit. "It's an old building," Arun says. "Bad pipes." The rest is stories. Mai watches Nina ignore the reassurance. "They say the door answers," Mai says, "because it is better to speak the rumor aloud than let it take shape by itself. They say if you talk after that, if you give your name, something inside remembers your voice." Does it remember for long? Nina asks, the way someone might ask how long a hallway is. Kenji drops his spoon. Long enough, he says, then tries to turn it into a joke and fails. Nina does not push. For a week, she moves through the day with her usual careful pace. She sits by the window and looks at the courtyard without really seeing it. She is polite when spoken to and silent the rest of the time. Then, between periods on a Friday, she steps up beside Kenji and says, "You like dares, don't you?" "Only the survivable kind," he says, without thinking. "It's just a door," Nina says. "Either it answers or it doesn't." Arun joins them like a magnet finds a compass. "We're not breaking anything," he says. "We won't have to," Nina says. "The lock never sits right, does it?" Mai hears the way she says never and feels a small prickle of a fact pretending to be a question. She finds herself saying, "If we go together." "Together," Nina says. The word fits her mouth too easily, as if she practices it rarely and likes how it feels. They choose Friday because Friday is a hinge. Mistakes fall through it into the weekend and call themselves adventures. The sun tilts toward evening by the time they meet near the vending machines. The air carries a smell of warm dust. The lights hum with the patience of old fluorescent tubes, and the east corridor looks longer than it does in daylight, as if a stretch of it has been spooled out behind the walls. The padlock hangs obediently on its hasp. Up close, it looks heavier than it does from farther away. Nina lays a fingertip on the shackle, then on the metal loop bolted into the frame. The loop is closed through the lock, and the lock is shut, but the loop is not set. The door will open with a steady pull, as if the lock prefers to be seen rather than used. "We open and then we close," Arun says. He is not asking. "We will," Nina says. She sounds like someone confirming a protocol she learned a long time ago. Inside, the bathroom smells of standing water and old paper. The mirrors are cracked, not shattered, but split along lines that disagree with each other. The third stall's door is not quite closed, as if someone had stepped in and an invisible knee had kept it from latching. The tiles hold the ghosts of footprints that might be stains and might be memory. No one speaks. Kenji bumps a sink with his hip and flinches. Nina walks to the third stall and taps the wood 3 times with the soft part of her fingers. The answer arrives with almost no space between. 3 taps from the other side, dull and close, like knuckles against a table from the bottom of a lake. Kenji makes a sound that is not a laugh. Arn's hand moves toward the door without touching it. Mai stares at the thin slice of darkness between the door and the frame and sees nothing at all, which is somehow worse than seeing something wrong. "Don't say your name," she whispers. "I won't," Nina says. To Mai's ear, the reply sounds like truth and like evasion at once. They do not stay long. A draft that cannot exist ruffles the paper signs on the wall. The third stall opens another inch without anyone touching it. Mai sees the edge of a school skirt that is not their school's blue, a pale knee turned inward as if waiting in a line. The mirror to the left catches their reflections and bends them a fraction toward the stall, as though the glass is rearranging them to make room. Nina breathes in, ready to lean closer, and Mai's hand closes around her sleeve. "Next time," Mai says, not sure why she says it until she hears herself and knows. Because there will be one. They close the door, let the lock hang the way they found it, and walk back down the corridor without breaking into a run. When they reach the vending machines, Kenji is shaking so hard his coins rattle in his pocket. Arun is counting 12 in his head because it steadies his legs. Mai looks at Nina and finds her calm and strangely bright, like a coin at the bottom of a clear fountain. "We should bring something," Nina says. "If we're visiting." "Flowers," Mai says. "Rice," Arun adds, as if the word arrived from an older mouth than his. Kenji says nothing, then says everything at once. "We are not visiting," he says. "We are verifying. There's a difference. Visiting implies we are coming back." "We are," Nina says simply. They return at dusk the next day. The light in the east corridor has turned the color of tired gold. The bathroom opens as if it remembered their footsteps. They leave a small bundle of rice and a pale flower by the third stall and knock 3 times. The answer is there, immediate, like a breath that never left. A voice slips through the door, not quite words at first, just the shape of a plea. Then a single syllable that sounds like "please," made soft by the distance grief can travel and still be close. They begin to dream. Kenji wakes with the sound of water dripping onto his pillow and finds it dry, then discovers a faint crescent bruise on his wrist he can't explain. Arun's phone fills with photographs of the east corridor at different hours of the night. Timestamps he doesn't recognize. Angles he couldn't have taken. Mai hears tapping on her window that doesn't match the tree outside and opens her curtains to find nothing at all but the feeling of eyes that have learned patience. Nina comes to school with her ribbon slightly out of place and a new steadiness in her steps, as if she has started walking to a rhythm the building plays for no one else. They read. The library's newspapers, yellowed to the color of old tea, tell the story in pieces, because the official story never says what everyone knows. 20 years ago, a girl from a neighboring school disappeared. She was found days later in the East Building bathroom. She had been assaulted and silenced, her life cut off by boys from Sato Middle, whose families were quick with alibis and lawyers. The school locked the bathroom and never unlocked the memory. The article avoids names. The town avoided the truth. But buildings remember when people won't. The bathroom became an archive that no one could check out. Mai expects Nina to be furious, or ill, or shaken. Instead, Nina reads the article with a face like a closed door and a single word behind it. On the way back to class, when Kenji mutters that the world is cruel and the school is worse, Nina says, "Sometimes the living bury what they should carry. Then the dead carry it for them instead." The sentence sounds like something she has practiced. When Arun asks where she heard it, she says, "From a house that burned down," and then refuses to say more. Rumors fill the gaps Nina leaves. People say she moved in with her grandmother because of a fire. People say her parents are gone. The gentler version calls it an accident. The cruel version calls it a choice. The truth sits between like a shadow at noon. Thin, sharp, difficult to see unless you teach yourself how. Mai understands this much. Nina is not playing at ghosts. She is speaking in a language that the bathroom understands. The third visit blurs into the fourth and fifth. They bring offerings and the room grows eager, The stall answers before they knock. The mirrors show faces that do not belong to any of them, features softened and wrong, a mouth that moves with their words but does not quite keep time. The scratches on the inside of the stall door multiply in patterns that could be random and could be counting. On the sixth day, as they turn to leave, the toilet in the first stall flushes itself, and a wet footprint appears where none of them were standing. It fades halfway across the tile as if someone stepped into the part of the room where the world thins. After that, the hauntings follow them home as if the bathroom has finally learned their roots. Kenji hears tapping under his bed at the same time every night, 3 times. A pause, 3 times. A pause, until he starts sleeping with headphones on, and the tapping moves to the wall by his head. Arun finds notes in his math notebook that he did not write. Numbers arranged in 3s, then in 2s, then a single line of small block letters that reads, "I don't want to be alone." Mai sees her reflection look over her shoulder in the bathroom mirror at home before she does, then look back at her with a patience that does not belong to the living. She starts whispering apologies before she turns on any tap. Nina does not complain. She does not look more tired. She looks more alive, but in a way that makes Mai uneasy. The way a fire looks more alive right before it finds the thing it was always meant to burn. When Nina suggests they return not at dusk, but after sunset, Kenji refuses. Arun argues. Mai almost says yes and then hears herself say, "Only if we go in daylight." Nina does not insist. She smiles, a small private smile that does not reach her eyes, and says, "Then we wait." Waiting does not help. The bathroom has learned them. It knows their footsteps the way a house knows the weight of its own family. One morning before homeroom, Mai walks past the east wing and finds the lock hanging open on its own. She does not touch it. She tells herself she will not. When she turns away, she hears the faintest sound from inside. A small breath that could be settling pipes and could be a girl who never made it out asking whether finally someone has come. The storm arrives on a Thursday. Rain needles the windows, lightning makes the corridor flash white, and thunder turns the stairwells into throats that swallow their own voices. Clubs are canceled. Teachers tell everyone to go home. Nina waits by the vending machines with a ribbon darker than usual and eyes too bright. She's waiting, she says when the others find her. She said tonight. She does not explain how she heard that. She does not have to. They know. They follow because their fear has acquired momentum, and because leaving Nina to go alone would be worse than any ghost. The corridor breathes around them. The bathroom door opens before their hands reach it. Inside, the air is heavy and cold, and the mirrors reflect the lightning in long white scars. The third stall stands wide enough for a person to step in. Nina moves first. Arun tries to catch her elbow and misses. Kenji says her name and it sounds small, in a room made of wet tile and held breath. Mai says nothing because she realizes speech is the rope she would use to pull Nina back, and the rope she would use to tie her to the thing waiting. The figure in the stall is no longer faint. She is a girl in a torn uniform, the wrong color, hair hanging over a face that wants to be seen and feared in equal measure. Her hands are pale and she keeps them close to herself as if she is cold and always has been. Her eyes, when she lifts her head, are the color of water that has forgotten the sky. She looks at Nina first and then, with a slow patience that feels like someone reading names from a list and saying yes at the others. "We brought you." Arun begins and stops because the word offering feels like a mistake. "I told her you would come," Nina says softly, and her voice is not her voice anymore. It is lighter and older and tired all at once. "I told her you would stay." Kenji grabs Nina's shoulder. "We're leaving," he says, panic making his mouth move faster than his thought. "Now." Nina smiles without warmth. "But we just arrived," she says, and looks into the stall as if listening for a line in a play. Mai realizes in a rush that Nina has not been dragged into this. She has been guiding it. The bathroom did not lure her. She opened the door from the outside and then from the inside, and now she is unlocking something none of them can close. The lights flicker hard enough to hurt. Water beads on the mirrors where there is no condensation. The stall door swings wider and shows the scratches inside more clearly. Rows and rows of marks low to the floor, some deep, some shallow, and one line that trails off at an angle as if the hand that carved it had nothing left. The girl in the stall raises a palm and the room's temperature drops a breath. Kenji's mouth clicks shut. Arun steps in front of Mai without planning to. Nina steps closer, as if she is presenting herself. "It isn't fair," Nina says to the girl. "It wasn't fair then. It isn't fair now. But I can make sure you're not alone anymore." Mai hears the sentence and understands the shape of the trade. Nina is not asking for the ghost to leave. She is offering herself so the ghost can stay. "Nina," Mai says, the name small and human and failing. "Stop. Please." Nina turns her head. For the first time since she transferred, the expression on her face looks like something you would describe as kind. "I'm tired of houses that burn down," she says. "I'm tired of pretending that silence is safety." Then she looks back at the stall and says, "Take me. Leave them." The girl's eyes lift to meet hers. The stall breathes. The mirrors mist over from the inside. Kenji lunges and Arun pulls him back because there is no way to grab a person who is stepping into a promise they already made. Nina goes still, then shudders once as if shocked by cold, then exhales like someone who has been underwater too long and finally finds air. When the teachers come later, called by a security guard who saw lights at the wrong hour, they find the corridor empty. The padlock hangs from the hasp like a punctuation mark no one can parse. In the bathroom, a crushed flower lies on the tile and a notebook sits open on the sink, its pages soaked and ink drifted into blue clouds. The first page still shows a name written again and again until the letters stop meaning anything. Nina does not come to school the next day. The office says she transferred. Her grandmother arrives quietly, collects a small bag with careful hands and leaves without asking to see anyone. That is the official story. The other story begins as soon as classes end and the east corridor thins with shadow. Mai, Kenji, and Arun do what people do when a story refuses to end. They return. They bring more flowers, more rice, more words they hope will bind rather than break. The bathroom opens for them, with the tired grace of something that has decided it knows them. The third stall stands ajar. When Mai looks inside, she sees not one presence but two, one old, one newly made, and the space between them like a doorway that breathes. She says Nina's name, but the sound skews sideways and returns to her flattened. They try again with prayers and apologies and the kind of promises people make when the future is a mirror they cannot face. It changes nothing. The bathroom is not a problem to solve. It is a memory that has learned to speak. It has acquired a second voice. On the way out, Kenji looks into the cracked mirror and sees a reflection of himself, with Nina standing behind his left shoulder, ribbon loose, smile crooked, eyes wrong. He turns and she is not there. He looks back and she is. The reflection raises its hand and taps 3 times on the glass. He runs before the mirror can answer. Time passes the way it always does in schools, with bells and tests and seasons that repeat until they don't. The east corridor holds its breath. The door stays locked in the way it always stays locked. A lock that prefers to be seen rather than used. The rumor grows teeth again. It learns new names. It tells itself in whispers that make other whispers lean closer. People say that now. If you knock 3 times on the third stall's door, you will not hear one voice answering, but 2. One sounds like a girl from a long time ago whose last day stretched into forever. The other sounds like a new student who smiled when she talked about ghosts and stopped smiling when she stopped talking about anything else. They say if you speak your name after the knocks, both will carry it, and neither will give it back. Mai graduates and tries not to walk past the East Building on her last day. Kenji switches jokes for silence and learns how to sleep with a light on that does not burn out. Arun keeps his keys ready, even when the only door in front of him is his own. They do not talk about the bathroom unless the weather corners them into it. When they do, they speak as if offering facts to an altar. The padlock is always hanging. The corridor is always longer at dusk. The third stall is always waiting for a count of 3. They do not say Nina's name more than they have to. Names are invitations. The world has enough of those already. And yet some nights, when the wind is still and the school is quieter than it has any right to be, a student will stand at the far end of the east corridor and hear it as clearly as if the door were an ear pressed to theirs. Knock, 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 knock. It will sound like a question someone forgot to write down. It will sound like memory practicing the present. If they stay, if they answer, they will feel their name lift out of their throat and hang weightless in the air like a padlock that has learned how to be open. If they run, the sound will follow them in their dreams and teach them to measure distance in 3s. Sato Middle School is not special. Every place has a room that remembers what people want to forget. This school's room is a bathroom that learned to keep a promise when everyone else let it go. It is a door that prefers to be almost locked. It's a voice that learned another voice to keep it company. It is a rumor that wears its own truth when nobody else will. And if you are foolish, or brave, or simply tired of silence, you can test it yourself. Go to the end of the east corridor when the light looks old. Touch the lock. Listen. Knock 3 times on the third stall's door. Wait. When the answer comes from the dark, when it comes twice, you will finally understand why the door hangs the way it does. You will understand why the windows rattle when the wind changes its mind. You will understand why a girl who was tired of houses that burned down chose to stand where water never moves. And for a breath, you will understand that some stories do not end. They accumulate. They add a name. They add a voice. They add a knock that sounds too much like someone you almost knew.